Alright, hello Guild Wars 2 gamers, Muckluck here, and today we have been trying out the Ranger beta test in Guild Wars 2 with the Spear. The current system allows us to basically make a character that is allowed to use some of the stuff from the Janthier Wilds future expansion, and you get to preview the stuff out and see how it feels. So this video is dedicated to the Ranger. So you see I've got the legendary Spear here. A couple of quick notes, very important. It leaves little shark fins behind you as you run. It's glorious, and every time it crits, it makes like a giant shark mouth pop out of the ground. You'll see it in a second. So really quickly, what does it do? We're gonna put the pet on passive. I'm just gonna auto right now. So one, it goes like bop, bop, bop. It's a 1, 2, 3 chain. Nothing special. It has a cripple and a self-swiftness included in the chain. So slows their run speed, speeds up your run speed as you're autoing with the melee version of the auto. But if you back away, the auto changes to Bee Sting, which just spams these thrown attacks, which are welcome. That's certainly better than not being able to hit the target at all. And also I'm throwing sharks because of my legendary, but it does less damage. The Bee Sting does less damage than even the first ability in the auto chain. So you really don't want to be doing that unless it's just that or nothing. The second thing in the chain is Mongoose Frenzy. It does a slap slap. It's a conal attack. If you are stealthed, it does slap slap chomp. And then there was a very shadowy version of a wolf here, if you right there. And that wolf does the third hit. Essentially, the 2 damage is doubled if you were stealth ambushing. The 3 throws a higher damage spear. You saw it did 11k. If the target is immobilized, disabled, or defiant, it does more damage. That is I believe this counts as a defiant golem. So that is with the bonus damage, I think. If you are stealthed, it instead becomes Owl's Flight, which does slightly more damage. There was 12k, but it pierces, it is unblockable, and does, hits enemies in a line. And it has a slightly longer range as well. I think it goes from 900 to 1200. Next up, the 4 skill is the Leap. You see like a spectral version of your Warclaw for a second. If you are stealthed and you do it, it will do some break bar damage at the end of it. And lastly, the 5 skill stealths you, but if you use the 5 again, you can throw this giant net. Now, the net, stealth and throw net, the net does some damage on impact, and then it does immobilize, and then it pulses cripple. So what you've got are a bunch of options here. Now, I would imagine that this could be extremely useful in PvP or world versus world. However, the thing I was most prepared to test today was PvE stuff. So I went into it with a PvE mindset. Looking at all of these things, it's like, okay, if I go stealth, what do I want to use it on? And the answer seems to be the 2 button. The 2 button, the damage doubles in stealth. With this, the damage is barely increased, and with this, there is no increase in damage, it's just CC. So, essentially, anytime I could stealth, I would just use the 2 key, and it would be much stronger. Now, we don't want to sit in stealth, because when you're in stealth, you're not attacking. So it's just whenever the 2 was available, I'd go like stealth and then 2 really fast to get the double damage on it. So that was how I was playing it. Now, the build I'm on right now is the build I recently did a video on, which is a power DPS quickness untamed. And the reason I did that is I'm pretty decent at playing that, and so I wanted to try it out. Now, right before I tried the spear test, I took this beta character, which is not perfect, because I didn't have like a second mace prepared, but it's almost perfect. And I wailed on the golem with mace, spear, axe. Mace, sword, axe. And I was able to get like 26k on the first attempt while I'm providing quickness and all these other boons. So then I swapped the sword axe for spear, and I dropped down to, I think it was like 22k. So I lost like 4k DPS. And essentially, every time I did it, I'll just show you right here, and then I swap, I do the spear ambush, and then I stealth with F2, then I use the 2, and then I'll just do 3 and 4, and then auto, and then the 2's back up, so I'll use 5, and then 2 to do that again, and then ambush with this weapon and swap away. And then I go back to maze skills. So, and see, like, I was doing 22k there, but I hadn't, finished the full rotation. Also, my pet was still on passive wall. that's how I was playing it. So how did it feel in a run? The Quickness Untamed has a lot of freedom with weapon options. So I've actually tested this build with hammer, with greatsword, with sword axe, with double axe, with maces. And sword axe is one of the highest damage options. So almost all the others were really close behind it, except longbow was way behind it. This was down in longbow territory. This is it. Now, numbers are the easiest things for them to change. You know, that's way easier than them changing mechanics. But I'm giving feedback on the beta test. The numbers for this weapon were extremely unimpressive. Right now, this thing has every condition in the game, and I have every boon in the game, and the ranged attack is hitting for 5k or less. And that is pretty rough. And then, you know, the strongest attack is like stealth self and then use the 2, which is 7k, 7k, 14k. So it's a total of 28k on the strongest hitter on this thing. The 3 is, I don't really get the 3. The 3 makes me think of someone at a pool party and they've taken like a foam pool noodle and they've thrown it at you. And it hits you and it's like, wow, that was a mild inconvenience, but that's about it. You know, it does like a little bit of damage, you know, maybe 1 point, but it doesn't do much. So the 3, I don't really know the purpose of it other than poke, but the 1 is also poke, so it's just kind of there. You know, it does more damage than an auto attack, and again, I'm talking about a PvE scenario here. So, you know, I use it when it's available, but that's about it. The 4 is a movement skill, which was nice sometimes. You could use it to reposition, and it's pretty as well. I almost never used it for CC, because like when I needed a CC, it's like, okay, I can stealth and then use this, or just reach for Storm Spirit, or, you know, swap to maces, and maces have 900 CC, this has 300, and this requires more setup. By the way, we did the math on how much CC the spider net does, because it does immobilize and cripple, and it's like 160 break bar damage, but it takes 4 seconds. So, I mean, that's like Weaver territory. That's really bad. So I don't recommend using the spider net just for cripple. Again, this weapon feels like a really juicy kit for PvP and World v World, but you know, I had to try it in PvE and see how it felt. If they decide to give the numbers some a little love in PvE with the, you know, like stat splits, this could easily be something that could be useful. Disregarding the damage, how was the mechanics? I went into a complete pug. Half of them were doing beta build testing with spear stuff. You know, the elementalists were blinding themselves with giant circles, so they were dead in 5 seconds. The other half were just there just to help out, and we did the daily strike missions, all of them. And one of the things that we did was Old Lions Court, and it was a 16-minute Old Lions Court. There was like 3 of us standing at the end. It was crazy. And the spear was useful there because there was puddles everywhere. It was complete chaos. We'd totally lost control of the situation, and every time that we were forced away from the robots, some of the only things still doing damage was my pet chewing on his ankles and me throwing spears at the thing. And that was kind of nice, having some ranged option, whereas before I had none. So that was kind of cool. Also, the now 90-second cooldown on Spirit of Nature was super clutch. I did a lot of AoE reses today. So, you know, mechanically, having this become a ranged attack was nice. The 3 was, you know, decent poke. The 2 is just, it's kind of like Greatsword too. It's just like you click it for slightly more damage every time it lights up. And the 4 was a movement skill. Stealth doesn't really do anything in PvE. In your average PvE raid or strike mission, the stealth is nothing. You just hit it and then immediately hit something else to ambush. Also, while I was there, I was using the Jaguar. The Jaguar got changed in a current patch so that when you use the Jaguar F2, it stealths both of you. So I was using that to enable me to do more ambushes. Basically, the way Quickness Untamed works is you spend 10 seconds in maces and then 10 seconds in 10 seconds in weapon set 1, 10 seconds in weapon set 2, and you keep alternating between the 2 of them. So when I went into the spear weapon set, the first time that my 2 was available, I would use F2 and then 2. And then the second time my spear was available, I would do 5 and then 2. And that's it. And by the time that that was done, I would be swapping back to my other weapon. And that's how I was doing it. So the Jaguar offers the same damage that the Tiger Pet does, as long as you have Fury covered, because the Tiger Pet also provides Fury. But if you have Fury from somewhere else, then that's not needed. And so you could just use this just for the stealth, because when he stealths you, he also buffs his own ferocity by 375, which is nice for a time. And that's about it. So, you know, PvP, World v World, I'm sure it's nice, especially with additional ways to stealth yourself, having some range poke when you need it, having a movement skill and stuff like that. In PvE, I don't see this being something that is going to see a lot of use in just your standard Unga Bunga characters, like your power builds that are just trying to get the most damage out of their build, unless the numbers get bumped up a bit. Because right now they are falling quite behind all the other power weapons, except maybe a longbow, who for PvE, at least in my testing, and I'm not perfect, I'm just sharing the results of my testing, longbow was last place when I wailed on a dummy with, every power weapon I could. Greatsword, maces, swords, axes, dagger, longbow. The longbow was in last place, and this was down there in that territory. But that's it. The weapon is pretty cool. The kit is pretty nice. The damage needs some love if they wanted to see PvE usage, but there's every possible chance that they won't care. They might just say, no, this is, for Ranger, we intended for this to be a PvP weapon, and it might be a decent one. Again, the damage will matter. If you go full utility, you might be annoying, but, if you don't have any damage, you can't kill the other guy. But honestly, I'm afraid to step into PvP right now because it's been too glass cannony. But yeah, that's it. I think that's it. I'm rambling at this point. That's what I learned from my efforts today, and I am off to the next one.